It's time for Bringing the Heat with Bryan Nolen.
What is going on, ladies and gentlemen? It is another edition of Bringing the Heat with Bryan Nolen. Yours truly here on the week of March the 19th. It is an absolute fantastic time of year. The springtime is here. You got March Madness just about to start. The NASCAR season is underway, and we're going to dive on into a plethora of topics from the world of NASCAR in just a little bit. But let's dive on into the Inferno right now with my guest, the driver of the number 71 car for Spire Motorsports, that being Mr. Michael McDowell.
Now it's time for
Mike gets high fives and handshakes all around for Michael McDowell. 6 poles 1 year ago, Your first one this season with a new team. Looks like you and Travis Peterson have picked up right where you left off.
Well, I don't know about all that, but just so proud of all the men and women at Spire Motorsports.
To go into the Inferno with Bryan.
Right now, folks, at this time, I'm going to bring the program the driver of the number 71 car for Spire, Michael McDowell, joined the program. Last time I talked to you, I think it was Phoenix last year, and a little bit of a transition period for you. What's the transition been like? You told me that literally the first day after Phoenix, you would literally be going to Spire and getting ready for 2025. Did that actually happen? And then what's just the transition been like from 2024 to 2025?
Yeah, definitely. It did happen. I was there the next day. Because we knew so early on in the season that I was making the switch that it felt like you were just waiting for the day to, so you can go to work. And we were working on things, but I tried to be really respectful of the process. I was still driving for Front Row, and so I didn't want to mix the two until it was like official. So, yeah, but it's been a good transition. I mean, it's been a lot of work in the off season. I mean, not for me. I mean, I've been a part of the meetings and part of the process, but we brought in a lot of new faces. There was already a big established group there, and a lot of processes and procedures. And then also too, like firing up that third car, even though that third car was there with Zane, it was supported by Trackhouse. A lot of the equipment was Trackhouse's. It was kind of like on a lease deal. So there was a lot to get going on that third car when we got there. So it's been a busy off season, but here we are now, right? And we're rolling.
You spent so much time at Front Row. Just how different is it at Spire compared to Front Row? I mean, can you really compare the two? I mean, you've only been there, 5 races so far, but I mean, how different is this compared to your years at Front Row?
Well, everybody does things differently, right? And the processes and procedures and all that. I would answer it like this, is that we're all still building race cars and going to the same racetrack and doing the same thing. So it feels a lot of the same, right? I mean, the processes and what you have to do to get here are the same. How you go about that, definitely is a little bit different. The culture is definitely different at Spire. We have a lot of depth as far as leadership goes, and we have, I think a clear vision of where we're going and what we're doing. And so it does feel different. But there's a lot of things that feel similar. You have a lot of smart people that are working really hard to try to make race cars go fast, and it was the same at Front Row, right? We're all racers, so that mentality is the same. The process of getting there is different. The tools are different, and that's just between Ford and GM. Just the tooling and what's available is different. So learning new software and going through that process is definitely takes some time.
I was reading 12 Questions with Jeff Gluck that you did, and it really seems like you and Todd Gilliland have like a real genuine friendship. Yeah. How did that start, and then just what is that like now compared to when you guys first became teammates?
Well, I think that I had a few teammates at Front Row over the years, and I was at a different kind of stage of my career too. And so when I got to the Front Row, I was teammates with David Reagan, which is a friend of mine, a veteran. Even though I'm older than him, he had more experience. And so you had 2 veteran guys, and that helped, because we were able to bounce off of each other and kind of learn and help develop the program. Then you fast forward, and I might get this order out of order, but I had John Hunter Nemechek as a rookie teammate, and super fast, but full of fire and trying to figure things out. And then I had Matt Tiff, I had Anthony Alfredo, I think that was it. And then I had Todd. And so by the time Todd had come around, I'd already had 3 or 4 rookies as teammates. And with him, he was just super humble and very open. And I had a relationship with his dad and his mom and his family, and just in general racing so many years. And I just felt like, okay, this is going to be different. Like, because he's open and willing, I am going to, in my mind, I was going to make sure that he was successful. If I could, if there was anything that I could do to help him be successful, I was going to do it. And he was very receptive to that. And he was, obviously had a lot of speed and got to a point where he was challenging me on the racetrack and all those things. So I enjoyed watching that process, enjoyed being a part of that. And so, so I have a soft spot. Doesn't mean that I don't want to beat him on Sundays, especially since he's driving my old car, but we have a good relationship. And, now that we're on different teams, that looks different, right? We're not sharing information. We're not sharing sort of, trade secrets or even, how I'm processing the weekend, but I'm still pulling for him, right, to do well and be successful. And so it's fun to see him do well.
Now, first I'm joined by Michael McDowell here. Now, when I usually watch a pre-race, show, I'm like, okay, we're getting ready for the race. At Daytona, they talked about your family. It pulled on the heartstrings a little, my man. Like, whenever Tom Rinaldi comes on my TV, I'm like, here we go again. What's that reaction been like? Because that was a really, really cool story about your family.
Yeah, it was great. It was, for us, we weren't exactly sure if we wanted to do it at first, and there's a lot of reasons why. But, we felt like if it inspired another family out there to consider adoption or support adoption, then it would be worth it. And, Lucas, our son, we asked him in particular, like, is this something you want to do? Because we didn't want to put extra pressure on him, put him like in that spotlight. Right. And so he wanted to do it when we felt good about it, and they did a great job. The piece turned out awesome. And, I think at the time I was just nervous about how this would come off, how Lucas would respond and how he would react, how kids at his school would react, things like that. But after seeing it, I was just like, man, I'm so glad that we did it, for multiple reasons. The first one, hopefully it inspires somebody. But the second reason is like that's a piece that we'll have forever, that Lucas, that Lucas could share with his kids and maybe his grandkids. And not everybody gets to do that, right? Like not everybody is able to tell their story in such a cool way with great video and great interview and all that stuff. So after it was done, I felt like, man, this is a piece that will be really important to our family and for Lucas's family too, and maybe generations to come.
You talk about generations to come. Obviously, they're second and third generation drivers. Is any of your kids in particular want to follow in their dad's footsteps and be a race car driver, or do they just not care? They want to do their own thing?
No, my oldest son would love to do it. It just hasn't been in the cards for us. I think that the way that my career's gone, it's been a struggle, and now it's getting better, and it's at a really good spot. But I don't have the time right now to go take him racing. And he just turned 16 and got his driver's license, and he's behind in that aspect. He would love to do it, but it just hasn't worked out. And that doesn't mean that it won't in the future. But I do feel like this is all he's ever been around. This is all he knows, and so I'm trying to help him cultivate what he could do in this sport apart from driving. Right? There's a lot of great jobs here. And so, I think he'll be involved at some aspect because this is all he knows and he loves it. But I don't think driving will be that aspect, but you never know.
Here's Michael McDowell. A couple more things before we let you go. You mentioned him just getting his driver's license. And I mentioned that you have quite a large family. It feels like NASCAR is the longest sport from season to season, February to November. How do you continue to focus on that relationship with your family, but also focus on your job when you're gone every single week?
Yeah, it's very difficult, but I feel like drivers have the easiest job in our sport. I really do. I mean, you're away from your family, and, I have the ability and the opportunity to bring my family with me. And that's not the same for everybody, right? For my crew chief and my car chief and all my guys, they have to do both. They have to be away and they don't get to bring their family. So I never want to complain about that because I'm in a great situation with that. But we just try to make our time count. When I'm at the racetrack, I try to make it count. I try to be 100% laser focused on what I'm doing and make my time, in the hauler and on the racetrack matter. And then when I'm home, I just try to make that time matter too. And so, yes, there is a balance, and yes, there is a compromise, and there's seasons of life where your family really needs you and you have to step up. And there's seasons in life where your team really needs you and you have to step up. And hopefully those aren't in the same time. You know what I mean? And so there's been plenty of if there's trouble at home where I've been able to spend a few days there and not here. And if there's trouble here, I can spend a few days extra here. And but what allows me to do that is my wife. My wife we've been together since we were 15 years old. It's her dream too. And she's been a part of it, and she knows how hard it is and how hard it's been to be one of 38 drivers to race on Sunday. And she's given me the ability and the freedom to do it at a high level and take care of all the things at home. And it's just impossible without her. There's no way it would have been successful.
So you're 40, so you've been together for 25 years. So I've been with my wife for about 2 years. You got any tips for me to survive another 23?
Yeah, there's a great book that it's game changing.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's called Two Becoming One.
Okay, I'm gonna go on Amazon.
Yeah, and it's a book and it's a study that you do together, and there's evaluation in there and a lot of great things that will bring some truth to the relationship and just help you to understand, what it's created for and what it's not created for.
Awesome. Okay, I'm going to go on Amazon after this. Last but not least, your season overall, best opportunity to get a win. What's the next few races like for you? What do you want to accomplish heading into the summer stretch?
Yeah, I think that I used to think about it as just like super speedways and road courses as our opportunity. I don't really feel like that anymore. I think that we have more opportunities than just that, and I think we could win anywhere if we hit it right. And I think we've seen that, right? We saw Carson challenge at Atlanta. Obviously, that's a super speedway, but with all three cars qualifying in the top 10 last week at Phoenix, the race didn't go well. We had some issues, but we had speed. We had speed to contend in the top 5. You play the strategy right, you put the reds on at the right time, and you have a shot to win the race. So I don't feel like we're locked in this box to where we only have 8 races we can win. I think we can win more. But to answer your question on what's the few races going forward, we're just trying to build, right? We're trying to build speed, trying to build consistency, and we're trying to execute, right? And if we raise that up throughout the season as we go, we'll have an opportunity to try to win a race. And so are we there today? We're not there today. There's execution and processes that have stopped us from being able to contend like we want to. I think the speed's close. I think the speed's close to being there. So if we put all together all the pieces, we'll have a shot at it. And I think that's the goal. The goal is the next 3 weeks of putting together clean, solid races and building momentum and building confidence in every aspect, and hopefully that'll open up some opportunities to win.
Once again, that was Mr. Michael McDowell. Big thanks to JP Payne, one of my favorite, not just PRs, my favorite humans in this crazy industry in the world of NASCAR, for coordinating and setting up that interview. Let's dive on in now into our news and notes with what is still hot.
What's still hot? It's time to upgrade you on the latest news in NASCAR.
I'm going to dive on in now. Instead of having my co-host be the guy that was with me in Las Vegas, he decided he was too tired to co-host. So I had to bring in my producer, Mr. Trey Lyle. Trey, thanks for taking one for the team. Very, very, very disappointed in Michael Massey.
Yeah, you don't have any blackmail on me at all. Wink, wink. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, I just figured I'd step up to the plate. Michael Massey, I think, is probably he's either on a deep bender in Vegas in terms of gamble, or he's on a heater. He could be on a heater at the blackjack table, and so
I think he could be a bender in any different types of ways, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, it could. Of chocolate milk, of course. We're responsible here.
Oh, obviously, of course.
But he could be on a heater at the blackjack table, and just couldn't get up.
That is true. Unfortunately, since the truck race got delayed Friday night, we didn't have time to gamble. Saturday night went to the high limit dirt car opener, which, by the way, first ever dirt car race, Highly recommend. Awesome experience. Don't sit very up close to the fence though. You get pelted. So just a little
Some
bit of
people might
advice.
like that. Like you sit in the splash zone like Shamu.
Yeah,
Some
I
people like
mean,
that.
I guess, but I had to wear my sunglasses. It was like 9 p.m. But we're not talking about that. We're talking about Las Vegas. Hopefully, Michael stays out of trouble and gets to Thermal on Friday, as he and Danny Peters will be covering the IndyCar race from the Thermal Club in Palm Springs this weekend. Let's dive on in, though, Trey. We had some news in the world of the NASCAR. Some penalties got announced on Wednesday, March the 19th. And I think we all were expecting this, but the Cup teams of Kyle Busch and Chase Briscoe penalized for the loss of a wheel during the race. Obviously, you had some lug nut penalties as well. Or should I say, why was pit road such a big issue on Sunday?
Honestly, I don't know. I just think
Good job. Thank you for being honest.
they just messed up more than usual, I guess. I think it was Phoenix. This was the first time with like green flag stops, really like true green flag stops. Like you didn't have them at Phoenix because really, I think there wasn't any at Phoenix because of what you might call it. There were so many cautions. Then I didn't think you have any at Atlanta, or maybe one at Atlanta, and then Daytona. I don't think it's as it's as complicated as it's doing in Vegas. So yeah, I think this was the first time they were having real like go as fast as we can during a green flag situation. The pressure's on, and sometimes mistakes happen. It's early in the season, and just happen to have more than we've seen so far this season in week number 5.
Yeah, it was a strange race. We'll get to it in just a little bit, but I mean, a very odd race, that's for sure. Another notable news before we dive on into our soundbite of the week: teams completed the first day of a tire test at Charlotte. Goodyear was wanting to gather tire data and dialing in their setups. It was a little bit interesting for me, Trey, because I was reading an article that Zach Albert did on NASCAR.com, and apparently William Byron said that there was some blowing of tires or cording tires in Vegas, and the tires at Vegas were going down to the cords if your balance was off, and some guys blew tires as we ran laps. Isn't that interesting? Wink, wink. If you know, you know. But Trey definitely knows. I'm going to leave it at that. But what do you think they gathered for the tire test, and is it beneficial for these extra guys to get track time? I mean, Chase Briscoe said he was just happy that he had extra track time since we really don't get that much practice, and he just wanted to get more and more into the rhythm.
Yeah, I think we want tires that can go to the edge of the cliff, but not go over the cliff. That's really what we want to do there. So I think tire tests are good. And as for the extra track time, I mean, Charlotte is Charlotte. I feel like getting extra track time at Charlotte is not as keen. It might help with the setup, but the way they're sharing data, like I bet you if Briscoe found this key to a setup, they're sharing it with the 20 and the 11 and the 54. So I don't care about that part as much. And for Briscoe, it's a new car for him. He should get extra time. So I'm fine with that. But yeah, if there's an issue with a safety issue with the tire, then getting extra data is never a bad thing.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's definitely going to be a good thing, and we'll just have to wait and see what happens. So this is the second tire test in as many days. There was a tire test at Phoenix that lasted about 12 hours. So interesting there. With that being said, let's dive on into our soundbite of the week.
Well, Tony, what angered you at the end of the race? What did you take issue with?
What the hell do you think I was mad about? Dumb little runs us clear down to the infield. He wants to about everybody else, and he's the one that drives like a little. I'm going to bust his ass.
Thanks, Tony.
Thank you.
And short track racing.
It's time for the sound bites of the week.
But how did you guys get the 19 team to tighten your tire like so quickly?
It's something that we've talked about before. It's a situation that's come up in the past, and it's been discussed with NASCAR. So it could prevent a wheel going across the racetrack or a dangerous situation. So as soon as he jumped up with his head shaking, we jumped on it.
I mean, Trey, I've never ever seen that in all my years of not just covering the sport but also watching the sport. Never in my life have I ever seen that. Have you ever seen what we saw on Sunday with someone else helping another team? I mean, I know they were teammates, but still, it's still wild to even think about.
The only thing I can think of, and I don't know where it was at. I thought it was at Daytona, but it was Casey Kane ran out of fuel and was on pit road and got stalled out. And I think it was Jeremy Mayfield, who was ever in the 19 at the time. And you like the Brock is saying, Ray Everham is yelling at them to go push the car. And they push, I think it's the 9. It might have been the other way around with the 19 and the 9 crew, but it was the Dodge team. It was Everham. And they pushed the car, the other crew pushed the car to the pit box. That's the one thing I can remember. We've seen it with getting backup cars ready. It seems like it's a whole team effort. What was it last year at Phoenix? A really good example of this is was it Mayer's car or Sammy Smith's car that was going to a backup? Or Brandon Jones. It was one of the JRM.
Jones. It was
Brandon Jones. And what's the photo that we get from it? The guy on the roof helping is the guy who's about to win the championship the next night, Justin Allgaier.
That was awesome.
So I just think we've seen this, and I thought it was honestly, it was the smartest. You could argue the smartest move of the race.
Yeah,
it saved it not for just the fact it saved them essentially 2 laps. It saved them a lap if he had to go all the way around. More importantly, it saved them 2 crew members for 4 weeks, which is the biggest thing. Christopher Bell would not care about starting in the back because he doesn't lose his crew member, which the 20 crew is a really good pit crew. I believe it's ranked one of the highest. It's just, it was a really, really smart move. And, I don't know if this is going to last, but take advantage of it.
I agree.
This might be NASCAR's version of the tush push. Sort of.
Don't tell Michael Massey that. He wants to ban it.
But only specific teams could be expertise at this. And the smaller teams will complain.
Yeah.
It's you can always put another car out there. Nothing's stopping you.
That's true. But yeah, it was innovative as hell. So I mean, massive props to everybody, not just the 20 team, but the 19 team.
And the way they flawlessly communicated it,
I know, I don't, I still don't
and
know
the way
that.
Bell avoided 3 cars, it looked planned. It looked but it wasn't. It was so credit goes, big credit. All right, you want to go to the final segment now?
Let's go to the final segment now.
It's going to be a drag race all the way back to the start-finish line. No caution. They're side by side, right to the line. Big crash. Here they come. Checkered flag.
The checkered flag is out, and it's time for the final thoughts.
Our final thought segment is in the air. Whatever you want to rant, rave, or anything in between. Mr. Trey Lyle, the floor is yours, brother.
So what I want to talk about is Joe Gibbs trying to steal our spotlight yesterday. Okay, Joe Gibbs coming out 7:20 saying, we got this anchored sponsor, doing this whole shebang. You're a Formula One team with the way you're introing with a live stream.
True.
I mean, it's creative. I actually kind of like the idea. But, we may or may not have played the start of the car reveal during happy hour. But Tuesday, 7:30. Pick a different time. Okay? But it's good to see, in seriousness, it's good to see Denny get an anchor sponsor. The story around Denny and that 11 team has been the loss of sponsorship recently. And you're getting a sponsor that is very well known in the country. I mean, has been in NASCAR, but everyone knows Progressive. I used to have Progressive, insurance. So I think it's a great looking car, And I think all around that it's good to see. I was more worried about Denny's long-term future with Joe Gibbs Racing because of the lack of sponsorship. And I was like, are we heading down a Kyle Push path? But this makes me feel a lot better about it because, I think this could be a good thing.
I may get in trouble from our boss about this, but I don't care.
FaceTime Tom Bowles.
No, bad dog.
Just kidding.
I think there are people in the NASCAR industry that need to know or need to learn what the name, or should I say, title clickbait is. Clickbait is when you want to gather headlines and gather tons and tons of people to look at an article that is not really true. Clickbait is not a quote that you want someone else to digest as what they didn't say. No, a quote is a real thing. A quote is not when you ask a crew chief about some specific types of tires. No, that is a real question. Clickbait is maybe whether or not Kyle Larson and Christopher Bell are feuding. That is clickbait. Clickbait is not asking valid questions after the race or during a media bullpen. Maybe you should take a look in the mirror and see what you want to think clickbait is, because guess what? What you think clickbait is right now is definitely not truth. So if you want a Christmas present from me, I may get you a dictionary.
You just really jumped off the cliff there.
Woo!
You know what?
Trey.
If a person is with you and another that you view as a colleague, they should stand up for you in that moment. If said other person thinks you are, go all Will Smith on them. Go, keep Brian's name out short.
Just a sucker punch. Boom.
You know what? I decided if you're going to get fired, so am I too. So I'm right with you, buddy.
I appreciate you. Honestly, I'm fully expecting a phone call Thursday afternoon from, Tom Bull front stretch is calling me. But, that's okay. But let's be honest. There are people in the industry that need to learn what clickbait is, because I had to hear about it on Saturday, then to hear about it on Sunday. And I don't really care if they think it's clickbait when it's too
media
valid.
literacy.
It's mind-boggling to me. It really is, and I don't know. But before I get in more trouble, because I just got tagged, and you also tagged our boss in our group chat, so appreciate that. I may get the phone call earlier than I probably imagined. Trey, what are you going to be cooking up on Front Stretch? How was Happy Hour? It's already downloaded in my podcast feed, but I have not listened to it yet. How is that? And what are we going to be cooking up?
Yeah, we didn't get to talk about ice racing again this week. We had a great Josh. Well, we sort of did. I suggested that Caleb should do it, but we had Caleb Barnes join us. We had the OGs on, and we just kind of, Brian and Dalton got to fight each other about Josh Berry, and so that's probably an interesting part. We did.
Wait. I got to fight Dalton? I wasn't on it.
No, I said Brian. Well, yeah. Michael Massey and Dalton fought each other.
Okay.
Sorry.
Oh, you're good.
I'm doing too many podcasts each week. But another thing at the end in the last topic, and it kind of turned into one of those like bar conversations, and we discussed whose legacies have most benefited and most been hurt by the win and in playoff format. So listen to that and check it out.
Okay. It's actually a really good tease. I am more intrigued to listen to this now more than ever, Trey. So once again, Happy Hour on YouTube as well as your Apple podcast, Google, Spotify, wherever you want to download podcasts. Through the Gears, my man Wyatt Watson's got all the latest betting odds. He's been balling out. So check him out. Top Car Scoop, my man Caleb Barnes. These people are all my man. So if you're part of the podcast group, you're my man. So my man Trey Lyle as well is producing all these and being a fantastic podcast manager. So big thanks to Trey. And big thanks to everybody that supports the program. For Trey Lyle and everybody, I am Bryan Timothy Nolen. Thank you so much for watching and listening. We'll talk to you next week.
What's up? Michael Massey here, frontstretch.com. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button.